Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right. We're talking about End of Days on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal Patrick Hamilton coming to you once again from New York City. That's a song associated with New York, right? No? I fucked it up? Who cares? End of Days doesn't care. Why should I? Anyways, this is the Kill by Kill podcast where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters, and we're going to unpack all the goriest and honestly not nearly gory enough details of 1999's End of Days in the hopes that a devil worshipper's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust to tie up a woman in a church basement and translate her ramblings via Windows 95. The one, the only, Gena Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gena?
I thought you were going to say that you trust me to feed a newborn babe rattlesnake blood.
Like our favorite physician with a heart, Udo Care, doesn't this with his little pinky.
Just hand over this infant to Udo Care. Nothing terrible could possibly happen there.
In a way, End of Days is a very odd choice for Kill by Kill because it's a little neither here nor there. It's attempting to do all sorts of things, and part of it is horror and part of it is action.
We don't do a lot of Satan.
No. But I'd always kind of kept it in the back of my mind because I'd always wondered if we should do a season where we would do horror police procedurals. And then I looked at the list of franchises we haven't covered, and I'm like, we're never getting to fucking this. We should just talk about some of this shit. And then it came up that this movie is celebrating, at least at the time we're recording this, its 25th anniversary. And I'm like, no film has left less of an impact than End of Days.
Yeah, I mean, we worry sometimes about covering movies that everybody else is covering. I mean, that's kind of the obvious risk you run into because I would say, more recently than ever before, we've been covering new releases.
Yes.
Because, again, because they're coming out to streaming so fast. But no one is going to cover End of Days. This might end up being our most listened to episode, if only because people out there want to hear what people have to say about End of Days, and nobody else is covering it.
Yeah, truly, when everyone else is we talked about Black Christmas, which is a fantastic movie, and I get why everyone's talking about it. It's his 50th anniversary and all that. But no one with a right mind is going to talk about End of Days. And so, yes, it was originally going to be in that Black Christmas spot, but honestly, I don't regret shifting it. And no one but me could possibly care about its anniversary. So here we go, everybody. If you're doing a task, keep doing it. If you're listening to us in a relaxing position, get ready.
Pulling a Stuart Wellington there.
Yeah, well, listen, when he sets a good example, all you can do is really follow it. And I would like nothing more than to be compared to Stuart Wellington in any degree.
Yeah, don't feel like you have to stop and watch it. You really, really, really don't.
I'm going to tell you almost everything that happens in the first half of it. Nothing that happens in the second half of it is really worth discussing. That being said, Gena had mentioned before we started recording that this movie it has a charm to it, but it comes from a very specific place, Gena.
Yeah, it is so stupid and takes itself so seriously that it's kind of charming. Yeah. After a while, how serious? No. Let me take that back. Gabriel Byrne isn't taking it seriously. Gabriel Byrne knows exactly what kind of movie it is, and that movie is stupid bullshit. in which they are making it up as they go along. They are just like I will give you an example. And Patrick, if you had a setup for this, I apologize for stealing your thunder.
No worries.
But the big shocking reveal in this movie is that 666, the devil's number that we're all familiar from in The Omen mostly, is actually supposed to be turned over and is actually 999, and then you add a 1 to it, and that means 1999. That's the big, like, holy shit reveal in the movie.
When the screenwriter wrote this down, he must have felt like whoever wrote down Martha, why did you say the name Martha? Like, no one's ever talked about the fact that Superman and Batman have the same mom name and all. And you're like, yeah, because it doesn't fucking matter. It's a weird stretch. And this is an even weirder stretch.
Like what if all those people who were trying to stalk Damien Thorne were wrong? And it's like, no, he was still definitely the devil's seed. It's like, regardless of what positioning the numbers on his scalp were.
And, considering how much we enjoyed last year, the first Omen, and how unstupid that is while still taking itself very seriously. It's a very humorless movie. And that's not a criticism, but it is a straight horror. It's not trying to elbow the audience at any point. And I think that's what elevates it from, as much as I love that original Omen movie, because it is a shit ton of fun. What was fun about the first Omen was how deadly serious it was taken, how much they wanted to make a true creeping horror out of it. And it's really accomplished, and it looks beautiful. And, it was only made for a couple more $1 million than this film. Actually, that's not true at all. This movie was made for $100 million, and they spent another 2/3 of that $100 million to market it. And it kind of came even when you add up domestic and foreign. But even then, you're not making all that money from foreign markets. And so it was primarily a big fucking dud. And so much of my feelings about it are kind of wrapped up in the fact that I was a studio guide when they were making it. I came back to being a studio guide from being away for a little bit, doing other jobs in the company. And so I saw it being filmed a bunch of different ways, including at night when they blew shit up. More on that later. And then it was a guide screening, one of the last guide screenings I saw before I ended up traveling to Japan and living there primarily for 2.5 years. And so during guide screens, we were always told, don't make fun of the movie. You can make fun of it after, but while the movie, you take in what the movie is, and not because this movie is, above derision, but because you don't know who's going to come into the screening room. Everyone on the lot knows when the guide screening is. We have executives who come in and check out reactions to the movies that you guys give it. And that informs how it's like a test screening for them without us writing anything down. So we want to continue doing this. Don't, make fun of the movie. And then an incident happens in this movie in which a guy who's had his eyes torn out of his face says, "I can see darkness in you," to Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it broke 150 people at the same time.
Well, the follow-up's even better, where like, Arnold Schwarzenegger is trying to gain entrance into this like underground lair,
right?
And this like medieval looking homeless person with his eyes torn out says, "I can see darkness in you." Okay, you can go in. like he just said, like the password was New England clam chowder or something.
He's the worst bouncer. And this is coming, this is a problem when you have a big bad and you put it on the level of a fallen angel, Satan himself, and this is the dregs that he's been able to piece together.
Relying on like half crazed already homeless people to get his message across, and he takes over the body of an investment banker, which I'm like, well, I mean, you know, like is there supposed to be like a joke here about, oh, well, he was probably already evil to begin with, or like, you know, well, you know, why doesn't he, you know, instead of just, you know, smooching his colleague's, you know, wife or girlfriend and then sauntering away and you never see them again, you know, why doesn't he get to work on those people and you know, the New York, the Manhattan hoi polloi, instead of like, you know, the Rat Man from The Stand?
Well, this is the thing. It is weird that this movie, which takes Satan so seriously and all this, and, you know, has all this backstory about, you know, who he's recruited and how long in the works this has all been. It's been in the stars and everything. And then Prince of Darkness, you know, Satan is a swirling vial of goo. And he has also recruited a bunch of unhoused people, but they're basically blocking the exits. He hasn't put them in charge of important decisions.
Yeah, they're not like the only time he does that is when it was when he possesses the body of the guy that was the first guy that was stabbed to death, the guy who refused to you know even consider what they were saying you know about what might be in the basement, and you know he just sort of got his, you know, the whole, I have a message, you're not going to like it, but that's it. But I mean the homeless people don't even speak.
No, they are a force of nature.
Right, they're under some sort of trance.
Right, and here it's like he's just been recruiting in the weirdest way possible. Why don't we back up a little bit and figure out how this fucking mess started to begin with? So sit back. Again, if you also have a beer, I will be chugging this to try to make way through. Written to capitalize on Y2K fears. End of Days signaled the end of Arnold's big screen dominance in a genre that he had basically ruled over.
I was going to say that, yeah, I this was actually a first time watch for me. I mean, obviously, I remember when it came out. I remember the guffawing over the fact that his character's name was Jericho Kane,
Jesus Christ, Jericho Kane,
which is you know, up there in worst, you know, action hero names of all time, and also notable for being like the beginning of the end for his action hero career.
Yes, I mean there's multiple factors here at play. First of all, this is kind of a weird comeback for him. Like, he is using this to get back into the game, because far more detrimental, I think, to his presence in movies were the two movies that kind of preceded this. And that is Batman and Robin and Jingle All the Way. We talked about Batman and Robin over on Horror Queers, so I won't get into my many theories about that. That's a great place to hear about those. I am constantly surprised by people who are like, I love Jingle All the Way. And I'm like, the movie?
Oh, no. Jingle.
The movie.
Yeah, no, I cannot and will not revisit any of those 90 any of that run of 90s Christmas movies. Oh, they're just so hateful and miserable and irritating, and I just want to see all these characters suffer miserably. And there were so fucking many of them. You've got this one, you've got fucking Christmas with the Cranks. You've got the one where they're fighting over each other over who has the best light display, and it just it's so mean spirited, and I'm just like, why? Where is the entertainment value in this? So yeah, I'm shocked. And again, maybe we were adults by the time these movies came out. Maybe if you were a kid when they came out, they had a different hold, but the sentimental attachment to these movies blows my mind.
And for the record, if you love Jingle All the Way, don't let us two ever talk you out of it. Enjoy what you fucking enjoy. My favorite Christmas movie is The Ref, okay? Featuring one unconvicted criminal and a bunch of ringer actors, but it is completely mean-spirited. So but it's also not pretending to be joyful.
You're right. It doesn't have an unearned happy ending.
Yeah. And so that is part of the tide that he's fighting against. And the other part is that his sort of film career was on life support in the way that he was, because he had suffered a heart arrhythmia and had to go in for open heart surgery. He was uninsurable going into this movie. And so they were spending a whole bunch of money, and they're trying to, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger the way you like to see him, murdering a bunch of people in a instead of a sci-fi concept, it's a horror concept. So it's not the worst idea, but it's also the moment in time in which, and I'm not telling tales out of school here, Schwarzenegger's drinking was way out of fucking control. He was drunk a lot. And when people say you look drunk in this movie, part of it is not just because the character is supposed to, okay? I won't go into how I know a lot about this, only to be said that the man was not on his best behavior at this moment in time. Character actress Miriam Margolyes, who is kind of a British institution. You may know her best as the landlady that is molested by Alfie in The Apple. That's how I know her best.
Wait, she's in The Apple?
She is the landlady in The Apple that Alfie or Abby, what
Alfie. I was the like blank-faced hero. Right. Yes. Now I remember who you're talking about. Okay.
And he sings her a song, and then he grabs her boobs. She's like,
that's right. Oh my!
What the fuck is going on here in a movie where you say that every other minute?
When did I do The Apple?
I don't know. Considering that possibly our most popular episode on YouTube is Skate Town USA.
Maybe we should do The Apple for our mutual birthday celebration.
Absolutely. Cannot wait to discuss that movie every single minute. My notes will be a novel by the time we're done.
Also so stupid. It's charming, except it's genuinely charming.
Yes, but that is one of those things where it is swinging so hard for such a wild idea. Like, Satan comes back and takes over the earth. You could name a dozen movies off the top of your head where that happens. No movie on the face of the fucking planet goes where the apple goes. I will say it again. My big game with the apple when I show it to somebody new is I hit pause after 10 minutes and I say, guess how this movie ends. I promise you, you will not guess correctly. Take the wildest fucking swing you got. You're never going to know how this movie ends, and they are never right. That being said, Miriam Margolyes has claimed that on set during their big fight scene that Arnold, on purpose, farted in her face.
Just to do it, or to get some kind of reaction out of her?
I think, he is a known on-set prankster. And maybe in his pickled mind, that was funny. She did not take it as such. She has stated this publicly on multiple occasions, so I'm not telling tales out of school there. It is also one of the most fun sequences in this movie when Arnold Schwarzenegger is attacked by a 60-year-old woman, and she almost beats him. And it is fun as fuck.
Yeah, but also at the same time, it's like, okay, so what? Why does she have demon strength?
I don't know. I could not tell you.
Like, she's just like throwing them across the room and all. And I'm like, okay, does she have some sort of like infernal abilities to be able to do this?
That is a good question, Gina. I really don't know. And this movie, when it wants to do something, just does it. There's no internal logic to it. Shit just happens.
Yeah, it is a movie in which Udo Kier, he shows up in 2 scenes.
Yeah.
And the last time you see him, he is looking slightly put out because Gabriel Byrne's about to have a 3-way with his wife and daughter.
We will get to it.
This is a PSA, or public sock announcement. Experts have declared Bombas socks as the best way to warm up chilly feet. These pairs are super cushy, soft, and designed for maximum coziness. Plus, for every pair purchased, another pair will be donated, so someone in need of essential clothing can stay warm this winter. Go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.
End of Days was originally planned to be the directorial debut of someone we've discussed before, Marcus Nispel. He was a music video director primarily. But in 1998, Variety published an article about a weird 60-page writer that he had that he made clients sign for commercials and music videos. And he survived this incident, but he now sells commercial real estate. So it did catch up to him eventually. But we talked about him because he directed the Friday the 13th reboot in 2009. Before that, he directed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot in 2005, a movie I still maintain is not the original by any stretch of the imagination, but good. And then he just stopped, or life stopped him. But I did want to let everyone in this audience know some of the highlights from that 60-page writer he has that people had to sign to work with him. Let's see. Inform Marcus the exact moment a job falls through. He needs to stop thinking about an idea the moment it's not viable, Gina.
I wish I had that ability.
For big stars, a pretty PA of their preferred sex should always be there to keep tabs on talent. The PA should be responsible for getting Marcus a vegetarian poo-poo platter for lunch and a Diet Coke to drink. I've never been to a set that has vegetarian poo-poo platters, but apparently Marcus Nispel did.
Let me clarify this. So this is when he was starting out?
Yes.
Did he have this?
This is when he was directing CNC Music Factory.
That he had this list of demands?
Yes. And when he got hired to do this movie, out of nowhere, this list of demands gets published in Variety, and he basically goes back on the bench for another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I imagine so.
My favorite, though, of all of them is Marcus never has baggage. We don't know if that's for his clothes, for his work stuff, or just emotionally. Marcus never has baggage.
Yeah, see, if I did the writer like that, I mean, Gina always has baggage. What would be your meal that you would want a pretty or handsome PA of your preferred gender to bring you for lunch?
Grilled cheese.
Just a grilled cheese, yeah.
I enjoy a good grilled cheese, honestly, and I'm very good at making them because I feel like many of the grilled cheese I'm served are not done correctly, and I'm a snob about it.
Yeah, but what's the point? I suppose you could make the grilled cheese, hand it to the pretty PA of the gender of your choice, and then they could just hand it right back to you.
Yes. I love that the pretty PA is not for him. He doesn't need prettiness. What he needs is someone to hand him vegetarian poo-poo platters. But whoever the talent is, they better have some eye candy because that's the only way you can fucking control them. So after the Marcus Nispel debacle, they basically send this out to everybody. Among the names of people who turned it down include Ted Raimi and Guillermo del Toro. But then when this becomes sort of a weird, this could possibly fail, now Arnold Schwarzenegger is really up in it. Because if the first movie back from heart surgery, the only movie you can get insured to do fails, he doesn't know if he's ever going to be able to come back. Like, this might be it for him. So he dips into his Rolodex and pulls out the biggest name he has, James motherfucking Cameron. And so Cameron considers he does not want to direct this. He's like, I've done Titanic. I don't need this shit. But if I were to think about who could make this sort of mix happen, who would it be? And the name he pulls out of his hat is Peter Hyams. Now, Hyams is a journeyman, but he's made really interesting movies out of what would be normal genre exercises. I'm going to give you a list of just what I like out of his oeuvre. We got Capricorn 1, which is fucking bug nuts. The Hunter, Telephone, Outland, a movie I goddamn adore. 2010, the year we made contact. Running Scared, a movie I watched endlessly in high school. Narrow Margin, Time Cop, which is, again, so dumb it's charming. Sudden Impact, so dumb it's charming. So he's coming into this off of two dumb, charming movies that are action exercises. One genre, the other vaguely sports related. But like he made good Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, Gina.
Yeah, no, I could see where they would think he was a good match for this kind of material.
In my estimation, they don't have to be everyone's, but I think I consider them genuinely fun flicks. So Hyams is also his own cinematographer, and that usually pays off in the sense that you don't have to pay for an extra cinematographer, but his love of everything dark starts to bite him in the ass. In End of Days, but even before that, in the Hardly Seen, because you can hardly see shit, 1997's The Relic.
Oh, boy.
It's a movie made from a novel in which it jettisons a good 3/4 of the novel, and that's neither here nor there. But what they do keep, they don't really execute well. I've heard people say, this is a fun movie to revisit. I wouldn't know. I don't know where to find it.
Every time I try to remember anything about The Relic, I realize, oh, wait, I'm actually thinking about Mimic.
Right. Another New York Creature on the Loose movie. Although maybe they put The Relic in Chicago. I can't remember. One of these days I'll revisit it. But The Relic really starts Hyams' true flop era, and it continues here in End of Days. Would it surprise you, Gina, that Arnold Schwarzenegger was not the first actor considered for Jericho Kane?
I mean, I'd say considering the character's name is Jericho Kane, no, but this is also a part of a long line of him playing characters who had implausible names.
Yes.
I believe his character's name in the previously mentioned Jingle All the Way was Howard.
Because when you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, you think, deep down, that's a Howard.
That's a toe to tip. That's a Howard.
We got ourselves a Howard. In true 90s fashion, the first person whom producers courted for this role was Tom Cruise, who politely, or not, I don't fucking know, said, no thank you. But the role of Jericho King was written for Arnold Schwarzenegger. The screenwriter Andrew W. Malone had previously written Air Force One. He would go on to write The Hollow Man. So that's what we're dealing with here.
I mean, I liked Air Force One.
Yeah, sure.
Hollow Man,
tough sell.
Yeah.
Tough sell. Great director, fun cast. It just cannot get past how weird it is. And that being said, like, it's not like the material's diametrically different when we get to Invisible Man, but Invisible Man's done so much better.
Well, I mean, Invisible Man, I like the idea of, I'm going to use this potion and just, terrorize my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Whereas Hollow Man is, I'm going to use this potion and just get real rapey with the ladies.
I mean, I know the point of Hollow Man is that he was bad before, and when you erase responsibility of him being visible, he regresses to his most animalistic nature. I get it. It just doesn't work. Whereas Invisible Man, he knows it's part of like, I can't be seen, so I can make everyone think this woman is crazy, because how can this be real?
Right. That's the whole idea, is he's isolating her because, he is, making it seem like she's attacking her friend's child and effectively, pulling her away from everybody that she cares about, which is, brilliantly awful.
I am really looking forward to Wolfman and to see, because that seems like such a different way to come out a werewolf movie. I'm really interested in what that actually is. I don't want to, I have a tendency to make up what could be a good movie in my mind. And I'm trying to do that less and less. Just let the movie tell me what it fucking is, instead of me prognosticating and being disappointed. It's not the movie I made up in my mind, because that was the fucking point of making a whole movie and everything. Anyways, speaking of violence against women, it's not uncommon for multiple people to be considered for a role, but both Liv Tyler and Kate Winslet were originally supposed to be Christine York. They not only auditioned, they were booked one after the other. But Lord of the Rings saved Liv, and Better Angels saved Winslet. And then that's when we get to cinema's kiss of death, Robin Tunney.
Poor Robin Tunney.
Listen, I do not believe that Robin Tunney is a bad person. All right. I have heard nothing but nice things about her. So am I being harsh on Robin Tunney? Possibly. But Tunney's appeal on screen and what she is often cast in baffles the fuck out of me. Even once she's landed on TV in like CBS police procedurals, I just still did not get it. Why anyone would turn from the likes of Liv Tyler and Kate Winslet to Robin Tunney as the natural progression is an absolute mystery to me. That said, the role she's asked to play also sucks.
I don't think Kate Winslet, maybe. I don't think that Liv Tyler or much anybody else could have done.
There's no rescuing
much
this.
This
is bad from the script on.
Yeah, no, I can't blame her for this. Is she, not very charismatic? No. Does she look, confused more than scared most of the time? Yes. But I mean, that more than anything else could just be, poor direction, given a blank of a character. It's like, well, what's my motivation? The devil wants to get with you, if you know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, okay, but like, the devil also looks like Gabriel Byrne. Am I scared of him? Am I kind of into it? Am I confused about this? Well, I don't know. You figure it out.
But it's also confusing. No one really can. She's never seen what this fucking guy's supposed to look like. She just is going to know when he's there. So it's not like, well, I can't stay. Gabriel Byrne's dick is just too fucking good an idea. I gotta jump on
this scheme that the devil, I guess himself, has come up with to impregnate this specific woman, because it absolutely has to be her.
Right, because the stars align. Right. She's the one because of stars. It's the stars' fault after all.
Right. So this elaborate 20-year-long plan. Well, really, the plan has been in motion for 1,000 years, as they keep pointing out. But the next set of machinations for 20 years is, okay, this nurse, I guess, who is there when she's born, is now 20 years later her stepmother somehow. And also, whoever the fuck Udo Kier is supposed to be originally, he's just in this hospital and giving her this rattlesnake blood that they don't ever explain, what that does. She's already marked. That's how they know it's her. She's got some kind of little teeny tiny mark on her. And then, but 20 years later, he's somehow her psychiatrist. And I'm like, okay, is this all stuff that whatever would have had to happen, that, her mother's out of the picture and replaced with Miriam Margolyes' character. And then also she is started seeing a psychiatrist at some point who is Udo Kier. Did the devil make all that happen somehow?
I don't. How does he keep up with just running the trains on time in hell?
And why does it have to be those two specific people? Wouldn't it be easier to just have sort of a legion of people to kind of keep an eye on her?
Legion of people don't have access to rattlesnakes in a hospital. Junior, you got to get one guy.
Here's an idea that would have saved everybody a lot of trouble. Since he can evidently take over people's bodies and also, orchestrate these year-long plans for a person to insinuate themselves into someone's life from birth, why doesn't he insinuate a boyfriend into her life that he could possess in the middle of when they're, having sex, and then he could impregnate her with the devil's seed that way instead of all this other, elaborate bullshit.
But how are you going to get machine gun fights into your boyfriend's been possessed by Satan and wants to sleep with you again? That's the problem when it comes down to it. This has to be some massive weirdo setup and plot. Otherwise, you can't blow up subway cars. And that's what this movie's more interested in.
They're trying to, what should be a small little thriller where about paranoia and gaslighting becomes some sort of, this is just, millennia long conspiracy between the Catholic Church again and Satan worshipers and who are the good guys? And we can't really trust the Catholics either because some of them think they should just kill her. Instead of risking her giving birth to the Antichrist.
Where are the albino monks who are constantly bleeding from the thigh, getting through international borders in this movie?
I don't know. It's not a great movie, but do you remember the movie The Seventh Sign?
Yeah, but give me more.
Yeah, I that to me, feels on a smaller scale. That it is a slightly similar movie. Where, she's pregnant and you've got this guy that, she thinks might be the devil, but he actually turned out to be an angel. And it's it's more effective than this, which is not saying much. This movie isn't effective at all.
Well, I think it's effective in eliciting laughter. I would say that it is very good at.
That's true, but it is this is so much bullshit. And I'm not even... Yeah, I'm not even interested in bringing on, in ushering in the birth of the Antichrist. I'd already came up with an easier solution for it.
Yeah, you just improv that and you came up with a better movie. So I don't know. It really doesn't help that, at least in Robin Tunney's sense, that she's alternatively the dumbest character in any scene, but she's also in many scenes with the other dumbest character, and that is Jericho. And that's really saying something because Jericho believes he can kill Satan with guns.
He tries so many times.
And is so mystified that it's not working. He's told over and over and over again, you're fighting Satan. He's like, yeah, but I've got a Glock. And you're like, my guy, you're not listening.
And yet at the same time, they kind of reverse that eventually, where it's I'm thinking, it was the Hidden, right? Where eventually once their human form gets so damaged, they move on to another host. Yeah. So now they're trying a little bit of that bullshit.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't bullshit in the Hidden. It was cool. But, again, be solid already.
As you mentioned before, like everyone in this movie is slightly miscast with the exception of Gabriel Byrne, because in his, like, he knows you're supposed to, like, remember the omen. Remember how arch and terse that is, and it's got a little operatic lift, and he's trying to be mischievous with it and sexy, and he's trying to have fun with it. But, man, this movie just can't do intentional fun with the exception.
No, I mean, he literally pisses fire, and it's still like, it's like still not fun.
We'll get to it, Gina.
We're already 40 minutes in. We were like,
Gina, we haven't started talking about the movie proper. This movie starts with 3 minutes of opening credits of scrolls.
That's all.
Like,
that's
how do
all
we get an audience energized in 1999? The Matrix has come out. And this movie's like, how do we grab an audience? And someone says, scrolls. That is genius. Then we get a chyron. Vatican City, Rome. As if someone might confuse it for Vatican City, Orlando. Like, there's only one, guys. You don't have to tell me Rome. I'm surprised it doesn't go on to say Italy on top of it, just in case you weren't sure where Rome resided. It's 1979. You're under a full moon and a comet. And then someone unfurls more fucking scrolls. There are more scrolls in the first 5 minutes of this movie than any other movie. I don't care if it's called The Scrolls. And then giving off major conclave vibes, Pope Jimmy the Mushmouth is informed that this is the night that the woman who will eventually birth the Antichrist has been born. And he commands that Catholic priests be dispatched across the globe to find the girl born that day who will eventually give birth to the Antichrist 20 years later. Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm already bored.
Yeah, no, it is so they're trying to make it seem complicated because I think that'll make it seem smarter.
That there's that really people have thought a lot about this.
Yeah, you have all of this, the signs point to she's born. Okay, the signs can't point to you where she was born.
But I guess he's got a team in place wherever. Why does Satan understand this plan, but the Catholic Church, who has it written down, does not?
Don't ask these questions. They won't get answered.
Christine's born. We already talked about Udo Kier giving the baby a taste of rattlesnake blood. 20 years later, all right? Of all the years later we've covered, there's nothing that's brought a sense of dread to me quite like 20 years later in this movie. A radio DJ from Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan, is back on the radio.
They establish a good half dozen to a dozen times that we're getting close to New Year's Eve.
It's really important we know.
And the start of the new millennium, it's not. It's 1999, about to go into 2000. It is not the start of the new millennium, but they keep emphasizing that, like it's, so you know what that means. Of course, that's when the Antichrist is going to be born.
Yeah, and this came out the end of 1999. People were fucking aware, and unlike Jason Takes Manhattan, who at least that DJ is like, we need the juice that we get from terror. This guy's like, oh, it's all falling apart, baby. This is it. And you're like, not yet. You're in a golden era. You don't fucking know it, asshole. Anyways, in a combination of downtown LA and the Universal Bank lot, explodes when a predator devil bat, or PDB as I like to call it, causes earthquakes and explosions on his off-ramp to hell. I guess why he couldn't become the boyfriend is that when he's only let out of hell when these specific star conditions happen.
Right, but like,
Gina, you said it better than anything. There's really no answers to any of this, but to think you have a solution and just give up. What I mean
is that, like, if he orchestrated Miriam Margolyes and Udo Kier to be able to stay in her life, from birth till now.
Yeah.
Why couldn't he just sort of orchestrate giving her a boyfriend? And then when he's when he's allowed his 1 day furlough from hell, which again, to me, you're Satan, you should be able to leave hell whatever you want. Then he could take over for however the boyfriend's body for however long it takes to get her pregnant.
You're absolutely right. But this movie is just discombobulated. And I'm going to come up with one of my theories as we go here. I think this movie really gets going once this PDB, Predator Devil Bat, possesses Gabriel Byrne in the can, of all places. Gabriel Byrne then emerges from the men's room and molests one dinner date and cucks another in under 30 seconds. And then that's all she wrote, baby, because once he walks out the front door, that Italian restaurant goes a boom, I guess from sexual tension.
Hey, that is spicy meatball.
And I was on the lot the night they blew it up. And about twice a year, they have to blow something up in the middle of the night at Universal. It's just a safer place than blowing things up elsewhere. And Universal would tell the neighbors they were going to blow shit up in the middle of the night. They had to legally, and they did. But those neighbors would still fucking complain. I can't believe you blew shit up at 2 o'clock in the morning when you told me you would. They act as if they had moved in before Universal was a movie studio, when they had just gotten a good deal on the lease in 1993. I don't have a lot of sympathy for Universal's neighbors. Meanwhile, Arnold Schwarzenegger is back at his Manhattan apartment on a private security guy's salary, and he's doing his best Lethal Weapon inside of his apartment. And who should arrive, Gina, but Kevin Pollak?
Oh,
do you know what Kevin Pollak's name? Do you think Jericho Kane is a wild name? Do you remember what Kevin Pollak's character's name is?
I just kept referring to him as Jersey Mike.
You're not far, Gina. You're not far. His character name, official, is Bobby Chicago. Bobby Chicago.
And he is fucking terrible.
He is lost in this movie.
Again, he wants desperately to get some sort of like wisecrack or something like that in, and it just the script stubbornly refuses to give him one, and he just looks completely lost at sea.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't want to say words, and when you leave that big of a vacuum, Kevin Pollak is going to fill it, and he's trying, but also, what is the goddamn point? Especially when you're in a scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger has been brought coffee, he puts it in a blender, and then he puts Pepto-Bismol, beer, Chinese takeout, and floor pizza, and makes a smoothie out of it and drinks it on camera.
And again, this is what qualifies as character development. As you,
what does it say about him?
As you say, this is a very Lethal Weapon sketch, and again, not the first or the last two. Neither was Lethal Weapon, but the torture cop or ex cop in this case, who is still very sad that his wife and child have died, and so his life has completely gone to hell at that point. And that's illustrated by him, making this disgusting drink and, chugging it all down and acting like there's nothing, that's perfectly normal.
There's one thing that will forever change the way you sleep, and it's the softest 100% organic cotton bedding from Boll & Branch. You'll fall asleep faster, wrapped in the most luxurious comfort. You'll never sleep hot again with airy blankets, cloud-like duvets, and breathable sheets. You'll experience pure comfort on night one and feel your bedding get softer with every wash. Discover the difference with 15% off your first order at bollandbranch.com with code CUMULUS. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
So here's where I can tell that they tried some trickery after the fact, because it turns out that Jericho and Bobby are running a security detail for the devil. But I believe in my heart of hearts that this sequence was filmed it was meant to be shown previous to Gabriel Byrne being taken over by the devil. Like, he's being saved for his eventual possession as the devil, because it makes no fucking sense that he needs to attend meetings and need personal security if bullets don't really fucking harm him. What is the point of any of this?
To be honest with you, I didn't even catch that they were already working for him. Yes. Until I skimmed over the Wikipedia page. I'm like, wait, they already knew him?
Right.
I completely missed that.
Well, they have not met him up until the point that Arnold Schwarzenegger takes a bullet for him, but this being at this part of the movie makes no fucking sense. Whereas if it happened before that, it would make sense that the priest is trying to kill Gabriel Byrne, because if you kill him, then the devil can't enter him.
Right. Gabriel Byrne would have no idea that he would need extra security. I mean, otherwise, why would an investment banker need a two-man security team looking out for him at all hours?
Well, it's way more than two-man, because once all the bullets start flying, of course Arnold Schwarzenegger calls for the chopper. And so the chopper lands, and they're in hot pursuit of this assassin. And all this shit was filmed in downtown Los Angeles, and it's you can't do this anymore. Like, you'll never see this kind of stunt again, where there's just a chopper landing on 7th Street downtown. But it turns out that the shooter is a priest from that we met 20 years ago. And he tells Jericho that the 1,000 years is over, but he ends up not having a tongue. So how he communicates that is never explained.
Well, I assume that the idea is that only Jericho could it's the conversation isn't really happening, but that it's already been predetermined that the Jericho is going to be the one that saves the world from the Antichrist.
What kind of God, Gina?
Listen, I'm just spitballing.
I'm taking you to the basement. What kind of God puts humanity's fate in the hands of Jericho Kane, a guy who made floor pizza smoothie?
Hey, look, God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers, okay? And they don't get any tougher than saving the world from the Antichrist.
Then Jericho and Bobby Chicago, Borscht Belt badass, go rogue, although they're not actually cops. Although Bobby Chicago wants to be, I don't fucking know. It's wild. This movie wants to be Seven so bad.
Oh yeah, so totally.
Bad.
Yeah, it's got that very, everything's just covered in like a film.
And they go to the priest's, hovel, and he's got a picture in a jar, and they discover this is a rarity. We've already discussed, in the recent past, a goose scare. But I was not prepared for a cat in a refrigerator scare. Who put the cat in the refrigerator? Like, that's supposed to scare me? That the cat is now free from certain death inside of a refrigerator? We've forgotten what horror movies are. If this is what it passes for scariness.
Like, I'm not sure if I, after the third or fourth scroll, I actively stopped paying attention. But I don't understand, why the priest has cut off his tongue and put it, in a jar, to keep it, it's the juices fresh.
Yeah, he's to keep it fresh. Otherwise, that thing could go bad.
But it seems to me like if you are trying to, warn the world about the impending arrival of Satan and the Antichrist, keep your tongue. It makes it a lot easier to communicate.
And when this is openly voiced, how does this equate this guy trying to take a shoot at a Wall Street banker? Arnold Schwarzenegger says, this guy's no ordinary hitman. And then Bobby Chicago responds, yeah, he's an extraordinary hitman. And this was the first genuine laugh I had in the entire film.
Because you thought it was funny, or because it was such a stupid dialogue?
I think it's so stupid. It does reach what you were talking about earlier. It's so stupid, it's charming. because you could write that down, but only when you see it realized and all the $100 million it took to make this happen. And you go, that's the best you can do. All you can do is
in the end, I just like, oh, the audacity.
Speaking of the audacity is constantly on display, because when you finally meet adult Christine York, played by Robin Tunney, she's introduced with I don't think any movie outside of Hackers displays the amount of hairstyle confidence that Christine York has in this motion picture. How would you go into a hairstylist and say, give me the Christine York from End of Days? Where would they start? How would it end? And what would be left of us? It is astonishing. I don't know if they're trying to glam her up or make her seem relatable. I don't know if it was ever considered. There are a lot of reasonably smart people involved in this movie who've all gone temporarily insane or entirely insane. The subway sequence in this, in which she is confronted by an unhoused person who rants and raves that Satan wants to fuck her. Am I supposed to take that seriously?
I mean, to be honest with you, it's like, honey, did you just move here yesterday? Like, you get that freaked out about, a homeless man saying weird shit.
That seems like an every other day fucking affair. I would be more scared if someone entered the train and said, it's showtime.
I literally overheard someone on the way home tonight talk about a recent ride on the train when a man walked on the train and proceeded to start setting fire to himself. So a man coming up to say, hey, Satan's coming, he wants to fuck you, and be like, yeah, whatever, just go to the next car, tell them about it.
Listen, kudos to Brother Ali for that cameo, and that is a backpacker indie rap joke for 3 people. But Midnight Meat Train has better subway scares.
Yeah, I mean, the correct answer is who doesn't, and let them go on their way.
Gena, we learned something that I have trouble giving voice to. So I will let the constant TikTok meme of Jericho isn't just a bitch. He's a bitch with a backstory. Jericho's last name is Kane. And then Udo Kier's last name is Abel. So was Dr. Abel always a psychologist? Why was he in the morgue 20 years ago?
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. The thing I was immediately lost with the big scary reveal that they're still in her life. The people that did this ritual over her. It's like, but how? How are they still in her life? How does a nurse when in the hospital when you were born is somehow also your stepmother 20 years later? Yeah. How is this mysterious figure in the hospital basement now your psychiatrist?
Has he told you, that he was there?
Why not just have them be completely separate characters?
I truly don't know. It doesn't make it scarier that they're the same, and it doesn't make it less scarier that they were different.
Right, there's no shock to the audience, It's the shock is to Christine, but it's like, well, that's not that you're not thrilling the audience. They knew these people were bad from the beginning.
Right? Is her realization that they're the same people supposed to be scared? It doesn't make any fucking sense, but almost none of it does. This movie has the temerity to make Robin Tunney voice out loud on camera in a lit set and ask the question, why am I so different? Baby, have you seen your hair? I have. I mean, yes, you're absolutely right. Why is Miriam Margolyes her stepmother? What was the dad like that this... What, and then it's revealed later on that Miriam Margolyes was the in-house nurse when Robin Tunney's mom died. And then her dad and Miriam Margolyes started fucking. and they got married. And you're like, what? Fucking what?
So, like, is it implied that she killed Christine's mother?
I mean, or Christine's mother was given cancer specifically to get her out of the way so that Miriam Margolis would have more access to her.
So did the devil give Christine's mother cancer? And if so, I ask again, why couldn't he just possess some dude she goes out on a couple dates with and takes home with her?
Because it's hard to kill some dude you go out on a date with an M16. It's
really
hard to line them up with launched grenades. It just doesn't mean as much. I don't know.
I mean, I totally understand that the actual answer to my oft-repeated question here is, well, that wouldn't be as cool.
But is what happens in here cool?
Well, I mean, again, I didn't see this when it originally came out. I think by 1999 standards, yeah, it was kind of cool. Like big, I mean, we were in an era of big, stupid movies. Remember, this came out roughly around the same time as Armageddon, the stupidest movie I have ever seen in my entire life.
NASA had observation and approval of what happened in the script, and they read, and that's when the Russian space station blows up in a giant fireball in space, and they're like, yeah, check mark, you can use NASA. There's always fire in space. There is in Star Wars. There's also laser swords and wizards. Not when NASA's fucking involved.
This was a time when you had movies like Dante's Peak, where the most dramatic scene is an elderly woman jumping out of a boat into acid water and running onto shore, and her legs were basically left to two little smoking pencil nubs.
Are you trying to help me revisit my crazy Universal movies of the past? Because that's what it sounds like, Gina. I love to boil a grandma, but only the bottom half. The top half has got to remain pristine.
My point being is that we were kind of, and when I say we, I mean just on a cultural level.
Sure.
We really, like Hollywood was printing money in the 90s. And you could say, I'm genuinely surprised that it seemed like there was a little trouble getting this made because it seemed like, a day one, something accepted on spec immediately. Yes. Arnold Schwarzenegger fighting the devil. Absolutely. Where do how much can we pay you?
I think on many respects, it might not have gotten made unless they could get it made and released by the end of 1999. That's the producer's belief, that the hook was the end of days before New Year's Eve.
Right.
This will make bank. And it came in like fifth.
Because I think people were a little burned out at that point on end of the world stuff.
Yeah.
And beyond the fact that it is a giant piece of shit, but it should have worked.
Yeah, and especially with Peter Hyams, like he's made better out of worse. So it is weird that it just doesn't really coalesce.
My whole time in watching it, I'll tell you, the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking, I feel like watching The Prophecy again. You ever see The Prophecy?
Yeah. I worked in a video store.
Exactly. The Prophecy, much smaller movie.
Right.
It's, I would say that the plot isn't really much smarter than the plot of End of Days, but they're similar. The twist is that the villain here is actually an angel, but the devil does show up in one scene, and it is Viggo Mortensen, probably most people's introduction to him as an actor.
Sure.
And he basically steals the entire movie with this 5-minute scene.
The way the devil steals the entire movie in Constantine.
Right.
Which is as grandiose as End of Days, but ultimately, as serious as it takes itself, it finds a way to do it in a more interesting way. And you know, it's also smarter about casting than this is, because about 45 minutes into this, we're introduced to Rod Steiger. If that name sounds familiar, we last discussed him on the show when he wilted at the very idea of flies and puked in a car so bad.
Absolutely most useless priest in film.
He puked in a car so bad he had to retire to a farm upstate to be with other priests like him in the Amityville Horror. And you're absolutely right. Watching that movie again is so crazy because I'm stymied by how popular it was. I'm sure there's something in the zeitgeist at the time. But also, it's like the anti-exorcist, because in The Exorcist, the priests are the only people who know what to do and can fix the problem. And then you get to the Amityville Horror, and none of these fucking Catholics can do shit.
No, they're useless. And they're useless here, too. But, like, my point about the prophecy and you bringing up Constantine is what makes these, you know, appearances by the devil memorable is they are both one scene. And as much as I, you know, think that Gabriel Byrne is the only actor in this movie who knows what kind of movie it is, I think a tactical error is how much he actually is in it. And I think to make it a you know, a better and more suspenseful movie is to sort of treat it like a Fallen kind of thing, where he's just moving from person to person. And you know, nobody knows who they can trust. And here it's like, oh well, they're all the devil's minions. It's like, well, that's no fun.
Yeah, but they also suck. They suck at their jobs. It makes Satan look like a big dummy, like he's a bad boss.
Yeah, you know, he doesn't, you know, he, like I said, he you know, chooses, you know, half crazed homeless people and incompetent cops to do his dirty work.
There's one thing that will forever change the way you sleep, and it's the softest 100% organic cotton sheets from Boll & Branch. You'll fall asleep faster, wrapped in the most luxurious comfort. You'll never sleep hot again with sheets that feel breathable to sleep in. You'll experience the purest softness on night one and feel your sheets get even softer with every wash. Discover the difference with 15% off your first set of sheets at bollandbranch.com with code CUMULUS. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
But they're also fighting the biggest bunch of dummies on the face of the planet because Rod Steiger has a bunch of cyber priests in a basement listening to a woman with stigmata yakking at them in Latin. And then they cut to a computer and it's translating Latin into English. And you're like, in 1999? What the fuck are these people running?
And it's like, okay, so you're a bunch of priests. None of you know Latin?
We get free the transfer of our words into something you can read via Apple. It still can't understand Welcome to Kill by Kill. It still cannot pick that up. But you're telling me in 1999, this Dell can fucking figure out what this woman is saying? No. I also really enjoyed the moment in which Gabriel Byrne sees people skating at 30 Rock and he's just like, ice. You're like, what am I supposed to gain out of this? Why? This movie is nearly 2 hours long. What do I get out of the devil doesn't get ice skating?
Well, because it's cold, see? And where he's from, things are hot. Which is why he comes back to New York City on December 31st.
And he's pent up as shit. Because when he goes to Dr. Abel's house, he cucks him out of a wife and daughter for a three-way in which they begin to CGI shunt into one another while Limp Bizkit plays in the fucking background.
Well, it is 1999. So.
Yeah, it's the only thing that's accurate.
Listen,
if you're going to have a three-ways, eventually they're going to shunt into one another, and you're
if the devil's going to listen to anything, it's going to be Limp Bizkit. This might actually be the most 1999 movie of all.
In a sense,
of all of 1999.
I think it's the worst of 1999 rolled into one film. It's not anything that
it's like I said earlier about like it is all of the worst qualities of 90s action films. You know, big and stupid, and we don't have to explain shit because you're too dumb to care.
But then it's constantly explaining shit that doesn't matter, like the radio reports of random acts of violence committed by satanic cults in order to disrupt New Year's Eve events.
After like a half dozen or so explosions in like 24 hours, they're still having the big Times Square party.
Yes. This really pre 9/11 New York. They're like, hey, Italian restaurants explode all the time.
Right. It's not even like, oh, well, people are, rebelling against like, a curfew. But no, this is still like the official, televised party that they're doing. There's subway explosions and restaurant explosions and satanic cults on the loose. But we still got to see that ball drop.
It doesn't make a lick of sense, and not in a good way.
It's not even like I'm just gonna sit back and vibe on this.
This movie is not a vibe.
No.
When the devil gets access to a special part of the hospital by calling out a pedophile, you're like, oh, if you molest boys, you can get access to anything. I don't understand how this fucking works. The devil comes in and kills this priest, but not enough. So when CCH Pounder and Kane and Bobby Chicago show up, they're like, uh-oh, he's crucified. And then turns out not enough, because that pedophile cop shoots him in the head when he wakes up. And then mere minutes later, the devil meets a Korn fan and is like, you know what? You get Final Destinationed into a bus. Why? I don't know. Maybe he likes to ice skate. I don't understand. It's like they have to keep piling up dead bodies, otherwise they'll get bored.
Well, yeah, it's like, we need to emphasize that this is a really bad guy. It's like, yes, I know he is literally the devil.
He's literally the devil. You don't have to make him worse. I get it. He's a bad guy. Like, but he doesn't like skateboarders and guys that wear hats that look like dreadlocks. Neither do I. What do you want? If I can say one really good thing about this movie, is that it realizes you need a dark microfiche scene. And the way it does it is they look up Christine's driver's license on a blue iMac. Just want you to know, I too owned a blue iMac. So this was the moment I felt like, is this made just for me?
I'm still trying to also figure out how they jump from that the guy has Christ in New York tattooed all over his body in the house. I think I was actively half checked out at this point, but how they determined that it actually says Christine York.
Well, that's the genius of Bobby Chicago. That's why you have Bobby Chicago on the tape, because he starts riffing and he's like, what does that mean? York, Christ, Chris York, Christine York. And they're like, ding, 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 ding. Let's go to the blue iMac. I bet we can look that up. And they do. They save the day.
There she is.
There she is, the sweaty Christine York off of her elliptical. And the pre-assassins are there to kill her at her brownstone. They kill a butler. They fill up a bath. Why do they fill up the fucking bathtub after they stab him? What is the point of that?
Missed that one too.
The devil wants Christine delivered like she's an Uber Eats or something. And when Abel fails him because there are police outside of the brownstone, Udo Kier gets punched through the head. And that's a picture wrap for Udo, everyone. And then Jericho finds a clue in Christine's house. And Christine and him see a naked tiny person orgy in an apple.
It sounds stupid when you explain it that way.
Sure. I mean, when you see it visually, like, oh my God, I'm haunted by that image. But when I say it, it does sound very, very stupid. Outside, beloved character, Bobby Chicago, and two unseen New York police patrol officers are murdered by flaming and then explosive pee. That is a thing that happens in this movie. I am not making that up.
That, as you pointed out the other day, that now makes it the second movie we've covered that involves flaming pee.
We have only covered 2 incidents of magical flaming pee on this show, here and Nightmare on Elm Street 4. And it's just 2 times. That's not a lot, but it's weird that it has happened twice. If someone has a third, please let me know, and I will schedule that movie in 2025. That's my guarantee to you, the Kill by Kill listener. If this movie ended in 20 minutes after Flaming P, I think it would be a classic. But it is then I looked at the counter and realized there's 60 minutes left.
The pacing in this movie is unforgivable.
This is when I start to check out. And I'm thinking back, they did that explosion on Boston Street on the Universal Backlot. And that's where I would play the theme to Beretta. To quote Beretta directly, this is straight from the Wikipedia. Beretta is often seen with an unlit cigarette in his lips or behind his ear. His catchphrases include, "Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. You can take dat to the bank." And that's the name of Dat Tune. That is how it's spelled out. I've never seen an episode of Beretta. The theme song is fucking kick-ass. I'm going to continue here. When exasperated, he occasionally speaks in asides to his late father, Louis Beretta. He drives a rusted-out Miss Blue 1966 Chevrolet Impala 4-door sedan that he has nicknamed the Blue Ghost. He frequents Ross's Billiards Academy and refers to his numerous girlfriends as his cousins. This was on national television, Gina, and it's smarter. What the nonsense that I just spoke about for a full fucking minute is smarter than End of Days.
I was going to say, I'd be happy to talk about an episode of Beretta.
Did you know that Beretta was actually, they did a version of Beretta with a completely different person, and they're like, fuck that. Let's get in another actor who will eventually murder his wife to play Beretta, and it ran for 3 more seasons.
Oh, I love when they just swap out an entirely different actor.
Like, fuck it, we're calling it the Hogan Family now, and it's just a different show, but we'll keep the spotlight on it. Anywho, yeah.
I don't even know where we are. Somehow we are over an hour into this episode, and we are not even an hour into the movie yet.
Right, this is the thing. I told you I had too many fucking notes on this. It just, everything is something that needs to be commented on.
Are you willing to sit through this again for a commentary?
Yes. Yes. I
think that's the only way that we can, although we're just going to be like talking over it the entire time.
I think people, have gotten attuned to what our commentaries are like at this point. You have to see with your own eyes Arnold Schwarzenegger have fisticuffs with a 60-year-old woman and nearly lose.
You know how people like make fun of how in Predator when he's fighting, he's like and like the grunting. He is at his absolute gruntiest. And when he's having that fight at the end, the spirit decides, fuck it, I'll just possess him instead. Or it's with Satan when he determines that Gabriel Byrne's body is finally taken to a beating and he has to find a healthier host, decide to take him over. And so, I guess your soul, depending on how pure your soul is, sometimes it takes a little longer to possess you. So you get to see Arnold Schwarzenegger being thrown around by an invisible force, and just, the grunting and the Schwarzeneggering and it's just like, again, like, I don't think I'm supposed to think this is funny, but this is very funny.
I mean, it's hard not to laugh at it when Robin Tunney, of all people, is forced to say this line about Satan. He's in my dreams, nightmares, really. He makes love to me. I've been making love to him my entire life. Like when you were 5? What the fuck is going on here? Why is this happening to us? Why did we decide to talk about this movie? It is nearly midnight where you are. And I have so many more things that I have written down to say about this stupid fucking movie. Like, Jericho yeets Satan out of multiple windows in this movie. Multiple windows. He's just like, bye, Satan. He keeps thinking he can throw him back into hell, and it never fucking works. Bobby Chicago gets resurrected. And Jericho's not like, I thought you blew up. And Bobby Chicago's like, I got better. And he just like doesn't think this is a problem right up until the point that Bobby Chicago completely fucking fucks him over for Christine and takes him back to the devil. And then they have a giant fight in one of New York City's famous alleyways. And Jericho is crucified on the 3rd story of a fucking warehouse. But don't worry, he gets better because he's got some bandages. I mean, just...
Again, it sounds stupid when you put it that way.
At one point, like, the devil finally gets Christine and he's like, okay, time to have sex. But first, let's do some set decoration. And they have this giant flaming circle and torches, and dudes show up in robes, and you're like...
Yeah, and all of a sudden now it's important to the devil that she wants it. And it's like, what do you fucking care? You're the devil.
Were you trying to charm the panties off of her by killing all these other people before this? Like, was that your idea of romance? What the fuck is going on?
Now he's like stroking her cheek and I'm like, what? Just get it over with.
Like, you could have a baby by now, but he has to make this some sort of pure moods like music video. And Jericho, of course, shows up with a couple of holes in his palm. Not that it matters to him at all. And he's stopped by Bobby Chicago. And he's like, please, Bobby Chicago, don't listen to the devil. He's like, okay, I won't. And then he's touched. The devil himself gives the invisible flame and touch, Genesis style, to Bobby Chicago. And he slowly goes up in flame. You chose not to be blown up, to go slowly into flame. Oh my God. And then this is the moment where Jericho goes, oh, that's right. I have grenades. And he just grenades the fuck out of everybody. It's even wilder than Cobra. In Cobra, at least he's machine gunning down axe murderers while in motion. He's a standing target. And none of these devil worshippers have brought a knife or a gun, nevertheless a gun rack to have several guns to fight back against these fucking guys. The devil can work this out 20 years in fucking advance, but I never thought maybe I should have some armed fucking guards around here. No, he's got a blind guy watching the door. The devil has a blind guy watching the door.
This is as part of his 1,000-year plan to bring about the Antichrist. You know, using blind people as his guards.
This is no disrespect to our blind listeners, but I'm not going to put you in charge of watching the door. That's not good for you. That's not good for me. That's just not good business. I don't care how much darkness you see in Arnold Schwarzenegger. We can all smell the darkness wafting off of him. Anyways, there's a long-ass subway chase sequence, which they mostly did in miniature, and for the time actually looks pretty good. And my favorite part of it is when a subway operator gets Mortal Kombat by a devil who reaches through his back and yanks out his heart.
That's the only cool part.
And that's when Jericho yeets that motherfucker out of a moving train, and he gets all gristly, and Satan's just like, well, I'm not going to stay in this meatbag who's been invulnerable to explosions, but suddenly has problems with a little trip out of a moving train. How does Satan work in this movie?
I mean, that's the question I keep asking. It's like, why is he making all this so much harder than it has to be?
I don't understand it at all. And then we finally get to this big showdown inside of a church with this CGI monstrosity. They actually built a 9-foot tall, 6-foot long version of the PDB. And they never used it. It's all CGI. They just Scorpion Kinged this motherfucker. And it looks terrible. And so now that Satan needs a body, he jumps into Jericho's. And we get this, as you mentioned, this very amusing sequence in which Arnold Schwarzenegger struggles against evil inside of him. And you're like, oh, buddy, honey, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's like, just stop it.
It lasts too long. But finally, Jericho, realizes I can take fate into my own hands. And he leaps onto a conveniently placed statue stored And we get to see the worst CGI fire/heartburn commercial ever committed.
Oh my God, this fire. Yeah, and then we forgot that, like, we mentioned that he's very sad because his wife and child.
Oh, forgot all about his flashback. He gets visited by the ghosts of murder past.
And at one point, Gabriel Byrne offers to bring them back, which I cannot emphasize this enough. If you can resurrect the dead, there are infinitely easier ways you could have gone about this impregnating thing.
None of it makes sense.
But of course he's reunited with the wife and child with this absolutely unearned sappy ending, where it's almost like the ending of Ghost. Where like you hear like Unchained Melody and there's like the mother and the wife and kid.
You have to see it for yourself. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, I said at the beginning, you don't feel like you have to watch it, but that's the thing. We've been talking about this for almost an hour and a half, and there's so much shit we missed.
We haven't even gotten to Choose Your Own Deathventure, where we decide of the deaths in the movies, which one would we choose and why. This is nearly an endless list. Explode in a restaurant, shatter on a subway, hit by bus, your hair happens to approximate white guy dreads, shot in legs, crucified on a ceiling in a hospital room, then shot in the head by a pedophile. That's one person. Stabbed, placed in a bathtub for some reason, punched through the head, exploded by magic flaming pee ×3, lose a fight to Arnold Schwarzenegger, get glass shards shoved in your neck by Satan, shot to death in one of New York City's famous alleyways, stabbed in the head with a very sharp crucifix, neck snapping, beat to death in an alley, shot while wearing a robe, lit on fire, just a lot more slowly than the first time, explode in a factory via grenade, shot in a subway tunnel, shot in a subway car, Mortal Kombated, get meat grindered off a subway car and leap onto a sword of all fucking things. Gina, what say you?
I mean, I gotta do that Mortal Kombated one. That's like the only other than Gabriel Byrne. That is like the only highlight of this movie.
Well, that's to say you don't want to get magic pea flamed to death, which becomes explosive for some particular reason. The first time, you're dead before you really know it.
That's true. That's true.
So that just about does it. You can find us on your socials, particularly on Blue Sky or Threads, Instagram. We even have the Facebook group where we have fun discussions. Join us on Patreon, where we do lots of extra stuff for you, like Chat by Chat, bonus episodes, and movie commentaries, and so much more. And, of course, you can rate and review us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television and pop culture on my Substack, GinaWatchesThings.substack.com, and I am mostly on Blue Sky under Gina Does Things.
Do it today. People, check it out. Of course, the body count will continue for myself and for Gina. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.